And with this, the deliberate, strategic, and proactive use of the learner's home languages, English and the learner's home languages operate together and not in opposition. So I don't have to choose one or the other. It's a recognition that we are multilinguals, we are hurdlers. We sprint and jump at the same time. This approach takes that into consideration. And so all the written texts that learners get have to be in both languages, home languages and English. Now I know you get here, and I'm glad, because you said, is it about money? It's not about money. We can do these textbooks, actually. Pearson tried them. Okay. You can do this. You can publish material that's in 2 languages. And I can choose that by English and Xhosa, English and Sivenda, English and whatever, or Chivenda and whatever. Okay? Learners, during teaching, learners are explicitly encouraged to interact in any language that they feel comfortable with. They don't have to declare, ma'am, can I say this in Chivenda? The written text they get is in both languages. It's an open classroom, it's a multilingual context. This is what we are as a country. You don't have to choose, and so we can work around. The use of interesting and challenging mathematics tasks is important because, again, we don't want to lose sight of the mathematics. In my research, what I found was that in some classrooms, when teachers struggled with the language issues, okay, what they did is they downgraded the maths. They said, well, we can ask these kinds of questions because, in fact, our children can't do them. So we only ask these kinds. Okay? That's a problem, because then you denying children access to the mathematical power that they need. So you want to keep the mathematics at that high level, cognitively demanding, so you don't give that away. But you think carefully about the tasks, that they should be challenging, and I'll show examples of some of the things that we did. What this multilingual approach is not about doing what University of KwaZulu-Natal is doing. We're not trying to develop a register. We're not trying to develop Nasabia. We know that through use, languages develop. Okay, through use, languages develop. So this can contribute to other initiatives that develop languages. But it's not about, we are not trying to develop mathematical terminology in African languages. So when we do tasks and we want to say triangle, we would say triangle or associated triangle rather than write khutlo tharo tsepa and so on. You know, so there are terms that would leave as they are, and we would do things in a way that becomes accessible. It's not about developing learners' fluency in English or their home languages, even though we know when you do this, it does improve their fluency. In this case, it will not just be biased to English, it will also improve their fluency in their African languages, because they are also there. For the first time, they are not only seeing their African languages in the African languages lecture, they are seeing them in mathematics in class, in the mathematics class. But we are not denying them access to English, which they want. It's there as well. So they have access to English and their home languages. So it's not about teaching solely in African languages. During the class, what we do is we group them. Here it goes. Firstly, all the written texts are in both English and languages that they get. We prepare a task in multiple languages. And during teaching, learners are explicitly encouraged to communicate in any language. In any languages, selection of tasks is key. I want to get to that. The teacher pays attention to building mathematical communication and focus on mathematics rather than English or home language. Okay, let me explain how it works in class. I thought maybe in that sentence I would explain. So how it works in class, and we've tried this in classrooms with up to 5 languages. Okay, so in class, there are groups, children work in groups. Children can choose. And we did it in Soweto, East Rand, Ga-Rankuwa, so where there are multiple languages. In Ga-Rankuwa it's easier, it's only Setswana, right? But when you go to Soweto, you get 5 languages, right? And children don't just speak their home language, they speak other languages that are not their home languages. So we say to them, you choose. Okay, you want to go into a group that does Zulu, you go there. You want one that does Venda, that's fine. We don't mind. Okay, and they work in groups. In one group they've got Venda in Zulu, Venda in English, Zulu in English, Tswana in English, and so on and so forth. They in their group, they are working through the tasks. Okay, in any language they want. They can look at any version they want. No restriction. The teacher can speak the languages. The majority of teachers in this country are multilingual. The one question and criticism that I've had before was people were saying, well, you are creating apartheid in your classroom. Now it's homelands. If you are Zulu, you stay in KwaZulu-Natal table and stay in the Thohoyandou table. No. Because these kids are in the township, they speak other languages. We've got data that shows children talking across tables. Because they live in the same area, they can speak the same languages. But of course, when you have detractors, that will happen. People will say that's, already we have apartheid as it is. We have Western apartheid actually. Where children, poor children are forced to learn only in their own language. And those who have money go elsewhere. Okay. When you do it in this way in class, it's not apartheid. They're in the same class, they hear the same teacher, they move in between languages. It's a respect, all languages are respected. We do them that way. We tried it with little kids, grade 2s, and I didn't take all the tasks, but this is just one of the tasks that we used with grade 2s. I mixed the languages here, but you would get the Setswana version would have all the written text in Setswana, including the questions and the marks. I mean, and let me just tell you, I mean, in this task, there's another version. What do we have? Okay, and then there's the English version, just so that you can understand. The linguistically disadvantaged can get a sense what the questions were. Isn't it nice to be advantaged because you speak African languages for a change in this country? So, if you look at that and you teach mathematics, Pete, I'm quite tempted to pick on you and say, which question do you think was the most challenging for the grade 2s in there? Professor Human has done a lot of work in this area. Which one do you think was the most challenging?
How many more days does it rain?
How many more days does it rain in February? Any other takers?
The long one.
Number 5, because it's long. How many days does it rain in September and October? Pete? I'm sort of interested in what Pete says because anyone? Tony, do you have any? Oh no, Tony might have seen this before. We're not gonna. He might have seen the data, so we're not gonna ask him. You don't know. The issue is the issue is that the problem, the one that was most challenging, presents the same problem that any learner in any classroom would. It's about the concept of zero. So number 2, which month had the least rain? Yes, it's not because it was long. The one with the long sentence, remember, they had it in isiZulu, they had it in Tshivenda, they had it in their languages. The most challenging question, when we look at the data, that the learner spent time struggling with, was number 2, that says, which month has the least rain? And the argument was, you know that, right? Argument was, anyone wants to take a chance? Huh?
There's no rain being least rain.
Yeah. Can't say it's true because there was no rain, so we can't use it.
Exactly. So they were saying, do you choose the month where there's no rain at all, or when there's little rain? Okay. So that's a mathematical challenge that you want children, grade 2s to have, not to struggle with the problem because it's a long sentence and they can't understand the sentence. So the long sentence they have no problem with because they have it in their own language. The one problem they have, the challenging question they had was a mathematical challenge. That's exactly what you want. You wanted the focus to be on the mathematics. And that's exactly what we had. All right? And so these problems showed us a little bit more of that. I won't go into this because this has got a similar, we had a few more problems for high school learners. But let me tell you about the learners' reflections were most interesting. We interviewed learners in the high school classroom where we introduced. Imagine these learners have been taught in English all the time. The teacher has been switching here and there. Now, all of a sudden, they spend 2 weeks. They have things written in isiZulu, in isiSotho. The 2 weeks, nobody told them that's going to happen. They were told researchers are coming. their teacher is teaching them, and after 2 weeks, another teacher interviews them, not the researchers. One of the teachers interviews them. We asked one of the teachers, so that they don't play to us as researchers. And in all the interviews, the children had to be prompted. So the first question they were asked, I understand this week you had visitors in your class. What was happening? None of them said we had tasks written in African languages or in our home language. That wasn't the thing that attracted their attention. Fascinating finding there. None of them noticed language as the thing. What they noticed first as the difference was what they were learning about and the nature of the tasks. So if you look at the selections that I've done of the transcript, I was going through the transcript, and it's fascinating because they talk about, one of them says, oh no, it was made easy for us. But we gave them a task that was wordy, the full page of words. And he says they made it easy for us. How did they make it easy for you? No, because it wasn't the same as usual. We were dealing with kilowatts. We were asked to find electricity, what's easy, what's cheaper, what's whatever. But basically what they were doing, they were solving simultaneous equations. And we've got more. What was so special about the lessons the teacher asked? And as you can see, it does not include those maths, it's not different. Hey, ma'am, it's different. Firstly, we were working with money, and it's usually maths, and we do not work with money. Yes, you see, they made it easy for us, blah, blah, blah. None of them said what was different is that there was Zulu in our task, so there was Sepedi. Language had become invisible. And that's what we want. We want it to be invisible. We want them to focus on the maths to attract their attention and not the language. And the teacher kept probing. So what is it that you'd like about the new approach that Mr. Molefe was using? Again, it just goes on. I can go on and on a lot about this. And so our view was this is that this approach, there are a lot of opportunities, learning opportunities for learners that come with a multilingual approach to mathematics education, the approach to mathematics education, teaching and learning. It recognizes the political role of language and also the inequality of languages. It doesn't say, well, the languages are not equal, whatever, so you must choose the one that's powerful so that you give children an opportunity. It says, of course they have to have access for that. But you can't swap their access for English for their access to mathematics. You want them to have access to mathematics as well. It helps us to focus more on mathematics rather than just ordinary language, and it helps us focus on higher cognitive demand mathematics tasks and not avoid them. So teachers have no excuse to avoid high cognitive demand tasks. They have to focus on them. Okay, I'm gonna pause here because I insisted on presenting now. Okay, and I wanted to get to the argument that so what are the many reasons that I've heard about why this can't work? One of the big reasons that I've heard that people say, the multilingual approach to this is too expensive. That's what I was told. It's too expensive. Now we must print question papers. We must now make sure that they're translated into English and Tshivenda English. And I say, but you do that for Afrikaans. They pay the same tax as us. Why do you do it for Afrikaans if it's so expensive? Why don't you do it for both? Well, it's expensive, you can't do textbooks. Publishers are willing to do this. They just can't do it if it's not encouraged by. In fact, I worked with Macmillan Pearson a few years ago, and they did foundation phase textbooks like this. We worked together on the layout and so on. But the difficulty is that if it's not encouraged by a government, it doesn't serve. You don't need to change policy. Policy is multilingual already. Make the practice multilingual.